All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's AIA California BIM Software Member Value Program with Graphisoft. I'm Ian Merker, AIA California's Vice President of Communications and Public Affairs. Today's presenter, Thomas Simmons, and a few clients from their award-winning digital series By Design will explore the benefits of BIM in design, the effects of COVID-19, and share a vision for live integrated collaboration. Just a quick reminder on how to ask questions. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A box in the lower or upper menu bar of your Zoom window to type in questions to be answered during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. AIA California has once again teamed up with leading BIM design software provider Graphisoft to bring an additional member benefit to AIA California members. Since 2016, AIA California has partnered with Graphisoft to provide access to powerful tools to help our members and member firms overcome hurdles, streamline processes, and improve the delivery of your architectural services. You can go to aiacalifornia.org/member benefits for more information. Following the webinar, make sure to take advantage of these special offers that we have arranged to be available exclusively to AIA California members. As always, we will provide a recording of this session as well as further details of this member benefit program on the AIA California member benefits webpage following today's presentation. As I said earlier, today we have Tom Simmons joining us. Mr. Simmons is the president of ArchVista Consulting, a business focused on BIM and design immersion technologies with clients throughout Northern California and the Pacific Northwest. His company has over 20 years experience implementing BIM into architecture, interior design, and construction companies, ranging from small firms to multinational corporations. He's been on the board of AIA East Bay and served on the AIA California IPD Task Force. He regularly speaks and shares insights at user events, national and regional conferences, professional organizations, and architecture firms. Thanks, Tom, and it's all yours.
Thank you for that introduction, and we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome, everybody. And as mentioned, my name is Tom Simmons with ArchVista Consulting. So today we're going to be taking you through a presentation on rethinking the future, building together. The agenda we'll be going through, we'll be covering three basic points. First, the impact of COVID on the AEC market. We'll then discuss how that disruption creates opportunity to rethink business. And then finally, we'll talk about how to compete by challenging some of our core assumptions. To begin with, we're going to have several firms who will give us some of their, share some of their how they've experienced COVID in their business, some of its effects, and how they're working to create a more competitive workflow in their process. Many of these firms were interviewed as part of Building Together By Design. By Design is a series that was created by Graphisoft. And if you ever get a chance, we'd recommend just taking a look at even more firms that are interviewed there and have been reviewed as part of that series. So let's start with the impact of COVID on the AEC market. So I'm going to start with a couple stats here. First, this is a survey from the AIA. 2/3 of the firms reported slowing or stoppage of projects due to COVID-19 over the last several months. I know that many of you, including many of our clients, this has been a big impact on your workflow, on your projects, and certainly on your business. Moving forward, as we look a little bit into the future here, through 2021, we're looking at a continued slowing of building spending, which is not exactly a great forecast for the future, but nonetheless a reality. And so at least through the end of 2021, we're talking about non-commercial work, non-residential work, building spending being a bit less than what we've seen in the past few years. So I'm going to actually let you hear from Aaron Jobson. He's a partner at Quattrocchi Kwok Architects, and Benjamin Crosby, who's the director of BIM at Yates Construction. They're going to talk a little bit about the impact of COVID on their business and how they're adapting to new processes in their business workflow.
Benjamin, when we spoke to you last year for By Design, you had said that BIM is not an if, it's a when. Do you still hold that to be true, and do you think this might accelerate that movement?
It has accelerated it. There's lots of the trade contractors and lots of individuals that weren't really considering it before. Oh, we're never going to need to do this, and now it's coming to light very quickly and easily. I've heard a lot of people keep referencing the 2008 changes that took place, and that was kind of an unknown crash, and it was unexpected. This was also unexpected, but the firms that were doing virtual design and construction and BIM coming into that emerged a lot stronger out of the 2008. Coming into 2012 and 13, they really hit the ground running and hard and emerged fast. I think we're going to see the same thing here. Those that had the good work practices that were already virtual and like Aaron's firm and able to keep working from home and doing those things, as this comes back, they'll be well situated to advance quickly and pick up the new work as it comes back and be on top of things.
And I mean, Aaron, from your standpoint, virtual technologies, augmented reality, other ways to work remotely with clients, engineers, contractors, provide immersion.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a chance that those technologies might advance a little bit more quickly, or adoption might increase a little bit more?
We're just kind of starting to get into that now, I think, because it's been, the first 4-6 weeks, you're sort of like, well, we'll just kind of put that off another 2 weeks, and we'll put that off another 2 weeks and do it when this is back to normal. But clearly that's not going to happen anytime soon now. So now we're really figuring out, how do we run a community design charrette virtually? How do we have a big design meeting with a group of stakeholders and get everyone's input and make sure everyone feels heard remotely? And we're figuring that stuff out. And I think everyone's figuring that out and kind of moving forward on that. And I think some of the things that we've done in the past with using BIM and virtual design and construction and really having, those three-dimensional capabilities are a good groundwork for that, and being able to kind of show people the designs in a different way is helpful for that, a good start for that for sure. This is going to be a big disruption, and that's also an opportunity for change.
So that was a good introduction to this, and I think that moving forward here, exactly what Aaron says, it's a disruption that creates opportunity for change and to rethink our business. Certainly their discussion in terms of the 2008 crash and how that affected the market and how people implement new technology, become more productive, really helped to kind of propel us out of that crash back then. And certainly similar things are happening now. So let's talk a little bit about the current trends in the business of architecture. And in doing that, I want to focus on a particular article that came out recently from Phil Bernstein. Phil, if you're not familiar, is a very well-known figure in not only the architecture industry, but in particular in the technology industry and BIM. And so some of the things that he talked about in this article were really a couple points here. First, economics. Talked about the fact that we're going to see increased competition for projects and pressures on fee for design services, very similar to what happened back in 2008. Practice methods. We're going to create new value through digital services. I think it's a real opportunity right now to do that. And I'll talk about some of that in this presentation. It's going to create a new practice structure in terms of growth of remote work and collaboration. That's certainly something we're already seeing in terms of what's happened in result of the COVID crisis. And we're going to see even more of that, which I'll also review in a few minutes. And finally, he really talks a lot about the technology side, which is really his expertise. And he shared that we're going to see an increased implementation of BIM, and we certainly saw a lot of that in 2008, but even further, and embracing new technology solutions. So first, let's talk about two trends in technology that I think are important for today's discussion. The first is integrated design. The second will be cloud collaboration. Let's first start with the discussion of integrated design. So for many of you, you're probably familiar with this graph. It's a pretty typical architectural process. I'm an architect by training as well. And this is a typical workflow, right? You know, a lot of our work, some of our smaller parts of our work goes into schematic design development. The brunt of the work would go into construction documents and then ramp down from there into construction operations. And of course, any changes to design can affect costs as we move across the process of the project. Now, what's happened with BIM, according to the McLamey curve, which came out about 2004, is really the idea that, if you start BIM in schematic design, that, you can really start to move that bell curve forward in the process, which, by having that integrated process allows you to reduce, some of the impact of decisions to the cost of changes of the project. The reality of what we see in implementation is that a lot of firms really don't start until the latter part of design, well into design development sometimes, in fact, quite often. In fact, one of the firms I know has two teams running in parallel. And they start both teams out at the beginning of the project, one in SketchUp, the other one in Revit. And the Revit team is always following the SketchUp team, and as they're designing, they're building the Revit model at the end of design development. They go forward with the Revit model. And that's really kind of a not really great workflow. But even if you're not doing that, a lot of firms are starting much earlier or much later in the process of design, with BIM. And of course, that does lead to firms not seeing that promised productivity increase, and that's really what we're going to talk about. So as I mentioned, SketchUp is a great tool, and a lot of firms are using this in their design process, and many of you may as well. I use that a lot in my own work. And it's a great tool. The only problem with it is it's not a tool that you can really move into the BIM process. That information needs to be rebuilt. And as a result, if you rebuild it, well, it's obviously going to decrease a lot of your profitability and productivity. And it's just simply the fact that your SketchUp model is built around what's technology called surface modeling, and your BIM model is focused on BIM modeling, and they don't work together. So you really have to use one or the other platform, or just basically know that you're going to have to rebuild it. So what if we could actually have that same SketchUp workflow in the BIM modeling tool that you use? And here in ArchiCAD, you're able to actually take that model, very similar to SketchUp, using what we call as a morph tool, but using a similar kind of follow me type command. You can basically take and start to work with, this BIM tool within this process. And this really, allows you to kind of adapt a similar workflow, within the BIM tool, rather than having to build something outside the BIM tool, kind of throw that away and then rebuilding a model. And so here, allows us to kind of, again, use this within the BIM tool. And then, of course, not only the push-pull process, but also the follow-me command. So here we have the follow-me command in ArchiCAD, actually called the tube, but similar concept. You basically create some sort of an outline in 2D. You take that 2D outline, you extrude that along a path, and that creates a detail with your model. And that kind of detail workflow can be used not only in the design process, as we're doing here, but could really be used in any part of your documentation and detailing process within your project. So this really allows you to use that same SketchUp style workflow even further into your project process. And of course, it's not just limited to that. Bringing the SketchUp style painter into this workflow as well, where we're basically taking a number of different types of materials that we may have available to us in our project, and being able to search for those materials, find those materials, and just paint, in a really kind of basic workflow. It's very similar to, your kind of SketchUp or a sketching type of iteration. It's really important because, you don't want to throw too many dialogues, too many things into your process. You really want to have that early kind of design methodology where, it's about kind of moving the dialogues and move those elements outside of your workflow and allowing you to free flow think as part of your design process. And also, allowing you to customize schematic design views. Things like 3D cutaways are really important, whether that's a black and white view or whether that's a color cutaway through the model. These are really important because being able to quickly do these types of models and also being able to take a color model like you have and with a click of the button change that to a black and white model, so that if you're going to a client and you don't want to talk about color yet, you simply want to talk about space and design and shape. Instead of talking about color, you can turn that off and have a nice white base model to kind of talk about. And of course, being able to develop presentation drawings. Great example of a project here, and I'll show you a series of these, where they're developing a tower with various types of floors and information that needs to be designed. But we're in the schematic early design level. We want to be able to do something very simply, and so be able to quickly develop presentation drawings, to create illustrations. Again, very similar to what you might do in SketchUp, adding different types of elements on top of that to kind of show and illustrate circulation and movement, etc., is part of that design process. And then, of course, to have schematic layouts that are automatically updated. So as your 3D model is being developed, these views, which are placed onto your layout and your title block, are automatically being updated with any changes that are occurring within your schematic design. Now, one of the real new movements right now, beyond the schematic level, or early design level, is real-time rendering. The Unreal Engine, which is developed by Epic, has become the most popular rendering engine on the market. Now, what real-time rendering is, just kind of so everybody understands, real-time rendering uses your video card. So it allows the rendering to happen much quickly and to have a much higher quality. I'm going to let you see a little bit of what the Unreal Engine can do in terms of the rendering. So we may not all be creating digital humans, but we are creating architecture, and we want to be able to visualize that architecture in a way that's going to help us illustrate that to our clients in the best possible process and the quickest process. And so if we take a look at comparing a real-time rendering engine to a traditional ray trace engine, there's a big difference. A ray trace engine, which basically is calculating using your processor on your computer, can take anywhere from 30 minutes to a couple hours, depending upon the amount of processor speed, the complication of the model, amount that's processing in terms of polygons, etc. Whereas a real-time rendering engine, such as Twinmotion, which is powered by the Unreal Engine, happens in seconds, and that's because of the fact that it's using your video card, and that's really the difference in why, if we look to the future and even now, real-time rendering is really becoming a more and more of a staple in terms of the way that people work. And part of that too is not just rendering, but being able to be interactive within the model, being able to change colors on the fly and seeing real-time materials, not just kind of flat textured materials. And this is a big difference, right? Because if we're taking a look at paving in this instance, or material on your wall, whatever it might be, being able to quickly go through a library like this and being able to paint, as you will, but in a real, more realistic view, is a huge difference. Same thing for lighting and sun settings. The ability to be able to go and change lighting and see that in real time, to be able to change the sun and see that in real time. I cannot tell you how, many times that we have, done renderings using processors and not being able to get the right light and having to re-render that. And it just takes a lot of time and effort to do that. But being able to do this on the fly in real time saves you a huge amount of workflow. And then interactive weather and seasonal settings. Again, being able to, if you're, want to show this as a rainy day, you're doing a project in Portland or in Seattle, as some of our clients are, and being able to see this kind of change on the fly is huge. Or, if you're working in the mountains, you want to be able to maybe, or in a certain area where you want to change the foliage to show up for fall. Or as I mentioned, maybe working in the mountains and your project is in the snow, and now you want to show the snow on the ground. Being able to toggle this quickly and being able to see that kind of change in your model and in the landscape around it is just enormously huge in speeding up your process. Now, one of the things that's also become very popular for many of our clients is BIMx. BIMx is an app that works both on your mobile devices, as you're seeing here, as well as on desktops and the internet. And what's really exciting about this is that it uses hyperlinks. So what you're seeing there are hyperlinks that are pulling up drawing views. And when it pulls up those drawing views, we're able to interactively work with those drawing views, including being able to click on this drawing and then actively move that through the section. And it could be also through a floor plan cutaway. And this allows you and your client to be able to more interactively work with drawings and be able to visualize drawings in relationship to the model. And that's hugely important. We've had a number of clients tell us that this has really enabled their clients to understand plans much better and 2D drawings much better. Because as you know, when you show clients 2D plans, oftentimes they don't quite understand the 2D plans, but when it's relationship to the model, it becomes very clear. And then also being able to put this into a presenter mode. This is very similar to a PowerPoint or Keynote type presentation, but it's inside BIMx. It allows us to create saved views and then have animation between those views. So if you've used SketchUp and you created views between different, or saved views in SketchUp and you move between those views, you'll know it animates between those views and it just creates a really nice presentation workflow. So I'm going to let you hear from Lauren and Blair. They're both principals in a young firm that started off at the start of the year. And, they, of course, starting a new practice had to adapt to the impact of COVID on the business. And they're going to talk about that and also about adapting a new technology as part of their process.
We've worked with BIM software before. Knew the value of it and have spent the last several years in a smaller firm using 2D again. Being able to go one way and then come back, it really highlighted a lot of the challenges and limitations that 2D has. And we would push our SketchUp models and how we can use them in documentation as far as possible, because just living in 3D and designing in 3D was just where we all felt comfortable and natural. Now that we were in charge, we got to do it. We were eager to switch back to a BIM program.
Given the fact that you had previous experience in Revit, why not just take the safe bet, kind of stick with what you know? Why ArchiCAD over the software that you knew?
Lauren and I both, for better or worse, really like to challenge ourselves and find not just the common solution to things, but what we think is the best solution. I know Revit is much more popular, but we looked at this program and just liked it better, particularly for front-end design and visualization, which to us is really important in terms of being able to make that happen more quickly and using less programs to do so it's more efficient. If we can manage to do everything in the one software, then your team is much more flexible and you can move a lot faster.
Being able to streamline the process, and also about the story that your documents tell for all parties involved in making the project real. Yeah, we want to be effective and try to be on the forefront of where things are headed next.
Great. So we'll go ahead and you can kind of see some of their feedback and why they decide to move to a single solution versus using several different pieces of software, as we talked about before, trying to make that design process more efficient. So now let's talk about cloud collaboration. and how that is being used in the workflow between offices and remote working now. One of our clients, Joseph Vance, recently commented in a interview that teamwork is great because you don't have to be in the same room, same building, same continent. It's very robust software for working together. And so teamwork uses BIM, is powered by BIM Cloud. BIM Cloud is a solution that can be either on your local server or, as more of our clients are using, as a service that they can tap into and then be able to create a very remote team. And of course, this is also very powerful for mobile devices and presentations, because you can now access that mobile or access your BIM model on your mobile devices, and any red lines, any updates, et cetera, happen automatically, and creates that nice interactivity with your BIM model that's on BIM Cloud. But it's not just limited to your team. It's also now being used more and more as a collaboration between your consultants and construction as well. And so Patrick Bird, who is with Riverstone Structural Concepts, has talked about how this process has really helped them to be able to work collaboratively with their clients, which are architects. And so they now, as you'll see in just a second, they can now work live in the model real time with the firms that they're consulting with, so that as changes are being made in meetings, in an example I'll show you in a second, the changes are being made also to the structural model in real time and vice versa. The other thing that was just announced in actually the most recent release of ArchiCAD is the ability to now subscribe to changes. And this is really important, because if you're working either in your own team and changes are occurring, or with your consultants, you want to see when those changes occur, particularly to certain elements. So if you have structural elements and those are changing, you need to know that. If you have MEP components and those are changing, you need to know about that. Or if you have particular systems like a building shell or a curtain wall, where those elements which are important to the edge of the building, if that's being changed, you want to be updated with that as well. And now with the subscription process, it will alert you to any changes that occur and also allow you to track those changes. And so using the model review and model compare, we can now bring together different versions of models, either be it in your office or again from a consultant, and be able to compare what's been modified, what's new, what's been deleted, and then track those with the issue organizer. This is Anthony Laney with Laney LA's principal, and Jake Timmons, principal of Riverstone Structural Concepts. They're going to talk about a recent presentation they did where they kind of showed how this live collaboration can work on a cloud-based process between an architect and a structural engineer. Riverstone is based in Idaho, and Anthony's company is based in Los Angeles. And I'll let them kind of talk through this process.
Wanted to adjust the overhang of this roof. Here live in ArchiCAD on our side, we're going to pull back that roof slab, and of course that is going to automatically expose the structure. Johnny, why don't we send receive? So we're going to do that now. Teamwork, send and receive changes. We're going to update that model. And then how's it going over there, Jake? Can you see us? So Jake, we just sent you.
Perfect.
You'll see our live model just got updated. And you'll see you've got a few revisions to make to a few of those beams.
Fantastic. Definitely not the first time with Anthony's office that they change something in the middle of the design. We're used to this. There we go. So now I've received changes. There we can see the live update has occurred there. I can assess the scope of the changes, and then I can start making my revisions. So he informed me that's a 4-foot shift. I can just start splitting this and revising this to the new dimensions. We're just about there, a couple more beams. I can review that, coordinate on my end that everything is happy structurally. I can see the revisions there. Check that everything's trimmed nicely, and I'll send those changes back to Anthony's team.
Cool.
Click the right button.
Thanks, Jake. So here with Johnny, we're going to receive those changes on our end. Cool. Great. So it came through on our end, and I'm sure we will be bothering you with some more revisions in no time.
So I think you can kind of see the process there. But what's really, powerful is the fact that they're both working remotely, and being able to see these changes happen in real time. And I think that's extremely important. One of the things that we get as a, feedback from our clients many times is, when they're working with their structural engineers or mechanical engineers, they're making changes to drawings, 2D or 3D, and then they have to kind of relate what those changes are. It's difficult to track, and it's easy to miss something. And so being able to have these live kind of conversations in real time and in a real workflow really does make a difference. So let's talk now about how we can take these different components we've discussed and compete by challenging core assumptions. So I'm going to go back to that original article from Phil Bernstein that was done in Arch Daily, and really kind of focus on 4 particular parts. We're now going to focus on economics, practice methods, practice structure, and technology, and look at those 4 components in terms of how to strategize your business to become more efficient, more productive, and to kind of be productive for this next era that we're going to be getting into for the market. So let's talk about economics. So there's another great article that was in Architect magazine that talked about, can technology solve architects' productivity challenge, making a design process more efficient? And there was a quote in this that I thought was really, really interesting. You should read the entire article. It's a great article. But it basically said, business conditions have been so good for so many years that we've not noticed that many design professionals are still stymied by the same old business practices. So, if we look at over many years, this is actually an architectural billings index from the AIA from 1996 through March of 2020. And you'll notice there's 12 years of steady recovery. It's been a great recovery, right? Very long recovery. Part of the problem there is we all kind of got into our old habits. And in fact, I cannot tell you how many architects I've spoken with who have told me that they don't have enough time to become more productive. So, in other words, they were so busy that to become more productive was just, they didn't have the time to do that. And so, when COVID hit, all of a sudden we've got a lot of firms now that are thinking, okay, I need to start thinking about how to get my firm to be more competitive, which means more productive and more efficient for when we come out of this crisis. And that's exactly what happened in 2008 crash. When I went through that, and in this business, we had a lot of clients come to us during that crash with the particular intention of how they can compete better so that when they start coming out of this crash, they're ahead of the curve and better able to compete. So if you take a look at ArchiCAD, it's in Graphisoft, in terms of the ROI of what, so Graphisoft did a survey of their clients several years ago that basically reviewed through a return on investment, what they were experiencing in terms of an average productivity gain. And it was 38%. So I have clients that will tell you anywhere from 15, 20% to as much as 60% productivity gain. This is pretty much right in the middle. And so, it is absolutely, even if you're doing BIM already, as I've talked about, if you're having to rebuild your model, that right there is a good reason to look at ArchiCAD amongst all the other types of reasons. I mean, so many of our clients, exactly what Anthony Laney talks about in this particular quote, will relate to me that they are able to do bigger projects as a smaller team. And it's because of the efficiencies of these tools that they can do that. And so, being able to have a program that works as a building information modeling tool in the design process can make a huge change in your business and your workflow. That same article had another part that really struck me as I read that. And this had to do with practice methods. It talked about firms firms that rated highly in terms of technological sophistication have been performing better with above average revenue growth, as well as above average profits. So in other words, as part of this article, they did a survey of firms, and to see, in terms of firms that were moderately sophisticated, fairly sophisticated, and very sophisticated. And they found through the survey, similar to the ROI I just talked about, which was interesting to me when I saw this, that there was an average of 37% more profitability in firms that were more sophisticated, or very sophisticated in this case. But I mean, just becoming more sophisticated in a firm makes you not only more profitable, but makes you more competitive. And that is extremely important as we talk about this new era, this new business climate that we're in. So part of that is adding value and increasing revenue with digital services. So for example, looking at this list here, right? If you were to, move to BIM, or you have a BIM system, you should be able to add a lot more value, and you should, or at least have the opportunity to increase your revenue with things like model development, real-time rendering, virtual and augmented reality, 3D printing, energy and building analysis, drones for site mapping. I have a client actually who has a drone, and he actually now uses that to go out and map, in a point cloud model that he then brings back into his projects. Clash detection, being able to, again, showing what I was talking about earlier, having a model compare, and also being able to see where there are issues in the model as part of your process. A hyperlink model for construction. That was what I talked about a second ago in terms of BIMx. So it's not only used for presentations, but can also be used for the process of your construction. Objects for manufacturers, lifecycle building model. What you see to the right here actually is one of our clients. This is KA Design Works. And they use virtual reality as a means to help clients better understand the space. In fact, they even hired a gaming developer, subcontractor, to help them put interactivity into these VRs so they can actually change materials on the fly as their clients were going through that. So again, it's that value add and those increased revenue opportunities that you have by moving into a more sophisticated workflow. Practice structure. So what is a practice structure? So that's changing the way that you do your business, right? So part of that, as I talked about as Phil Bernstein pointed out, there's a big change right now in terms of remote collaboration and a more sophisticated collaboration workflow. Cloud collaboration is important. So firms that are digitally facile are using new innovative methods, and they're challenging industry standards. In fact, many of them are even looking at and saying, do I need to use what is the industry standard BIM system? Maybe not. Maybe I can use another system, which is open standards, works with Revit, like ArchiCAD, because it's better for my design workflow, and it's something that is specifically designed for architects. So as an example, this is Brook Street Lofts. This is a project done by Kitchen and Associates. It's a 17 million residential complex, and at the beginning of COVID, all of a sudden they realized they needed to rethink their process in terms of how they were going to work together because of just needing to streamline some processes. And they also realized that with new cloud collaboration technology, that they could actually bring in the architect, the structural, the MEP all together into a truly collaboration workflow. And as Keith Peacock here said, they bucked the system. He said that it really took a lot of work to kind of bring all the various entities together into this one model. But he said the result of that was really being able to identify conflicts and issues before you get to the field. And to strategize technology. I mean, this is extremely important. This is, there's a lot of things we can talk about in terms of that, but a big part of technology in terms of if you're going to implement some new technology is change, right? And it's really trying to focus on what that is in terms of a change to your business. And so I'm going to actually let you hear from Megan and Dwayne in a second. Megan Beckman's a project manager, and Dwayne Tran is a partner at KA Design. They're located down in Los Angeles, and they really are going to talk a little bit about, you know, their process of technology change in the business and how they implemented BIM and ArchiCAD in particular as a real cultural evolution within their workflow.
Change isn't a unique idea for us. It's a matter of evolution. It's a necessity. It's something that's continued to help propel us and keep us on the front end of a 30-year niche market.
All our work is custom, it's for the site, it's for the client, and that allows us to approach each project with a different design, but then also how we engage the technologies that we have.
You know, ultimately for this company, we realized that we wanted to move towards a three-dimensional platform. We needed to in order to continue to be on the leading edge of where the design market was going. So moving towards ArchiCAD and BIM was a natural evolution of that.
I would say that the implementation relied heavily on knowledge transfer in-house and development of in-house resources. It developed an approach that was fully KA, wasn't someone else's ideas brought in.
It's a really powerful thing, quite honestly, to be able to develop a cultural collaboration that's truly about greater awareness and accountability. The ArchiCAD's allowed that to happen.
We're all co-owners of the project.
Yes, much more so than ever before.
We're all in the model together, and it forces a different type of communication between all of the team members. Everyone is in the loop, in the know.
I think that's one of the really powerful things about the program, is that it's so conversant in allowing so many different people from different backgrounds, different experience levels and expertise and skill sets to be able to still share within the model. And even internally with senior people, it allows them to be very adept at being involved in the design process with younger staff or with model managers who are much more knee-deep into the management and ownership of that model.
Our collaborative nature really extends to our external teams as well as internal teams. We have big coordination meetings with structural engineers and mechanical engineers, and whether they're hand drawing, they're in Revit, they're in AutoCAD, whatever their platform is, we sort of bring them into our platform. So it's completely changed how we design together.
It's a bigger conversation than ArchiCAD at this point in time. It's about all the things that we can do beyond ArchiCAD that ArchiCAD has now opened the door for.
And the notion of continual change, continual adjustment, that is what keeps the whole team together.
Yeah.
Great. So yes, if you want to learn more about KA Design or about other firms, By Design is a great opportunity to do that. This was actually part of the season 3 Metamorphoses. They've had 4 seasons now, and you've seen a couple of the clips as part of this presentation today. So as we discussed early on, the AIA California has partnered with Graphisoft again on a member value program. And in fact, this year we're coordinating a BIM design and collaboration bundle with for AIA members. If you're interested in ArchiCAD, please do talk to us. There are various components to this. First, of course, is the BIM authoring solution, which is ArchiCAD. Multi-license purchases have up to 20% discount for members, which can save you up to $1,100. Cloud collaboration, BIM Cloud is free for the first year. This is a big deal, so that, you know, as you get started with it, you can actually get right on to a BIM Cloud solution and get multiple people on to remote working with you. You don't have to set up a server. You don't have to worry about the IT. Basically, it's a sort of a click and go. Very easy process to set up. It also includes 2 rendering and presentation programs. Twinmotion, as I mentioned earlier, which is a real-time rendering program powered by the Unreal Engine, and BIMx, which is an interactive hyperlink presentation app for both mobile and desktop. And in fact, it has a desktop application and now has a web application component to it as well. That is free, and Twinmotion typically also retails for $495. So, you know, this is a good components that are included in this bundle. And finally is training. Training, you know, you need to get started well within the program. And so you've got several components here to help you get started. First is the on-demand courses. Graphisoft Learn courses are included in this bundle for free, both beginner and intermediate courses. And we also have migration courses. So if you're working on Revit, SketchUp, or AutoCAD, there are migration courses to help you convert from those programs to ArchiCAD. The one for Revit's really an interesting one that was done by someone on staff at Graphisoft who has a Revit background. And she was able to create a really nice kind of step-by-step, how does it work in Revit? This is the way it works in ArchiCAD. And it's a really nice workflow to kind of help you migrate from Revit. On the remote courses, there are live courses available through the end of 2020, and there's 50% off on those. So if you're interested in doing live remote courses. And for those of you who are interested in implementation plan, we have a lot of companies that are doing implementation plans that can include templates, it can include plan for how to implement that in your business in terms of a schedule, step-by-step process, and other components. So we can certainly work with you to help you get started quicker, help tailor that to your process and business. If you're interested to learn more, and you're in Southern California, Frank Irizzo is your contact there, and that's his email. If you need to talk to someone in Northern California, I'm up here in Oakland in the Bay Area, and that's my email to contact me. You can also get more details on the AIA website at aiacalifornia.org/member-benefits. And this is available through the end of September. So do let us know if that is something that you're interested in, and we'd be happy to discuss that further. And I will open it up to questions. So as was mentioned earlier, if you have questions, simply enter those questions into the control panel. And I do believe that there's both a chat and a question. So I'm not sure which one it was, if there are any questions that were entered into the chat. Hillary, if there are any on that side, do let me know. Let me see if I can wait a second here to see if there are any questions that you have.
No questions as of yet, Tom, but we can give people a few minutes to type anything out.
Here. Okay, first question here. How does Revit integrate into ArchiCAD? Okay, so Revit has two ways of integrating in. First is a direct connection using the RVT and RFA formats. So there is a plugin to ArchiCAD for working with Revit. So you can link in your Revit file using hot links, and you can also export your ArchiCAD model to Revit for coordination purposes. If you are working with manufacturers, you can also, or with other consultants, or with your own business that might have RFA objects, then you can also import those into ArchiCAD, and they will convert those over to an ArchiCAD object format. You can also use IFC. IFC is an open format. That's a very global format now that has grown tremendously and supported by both Autodesk and Graphisoft, as well as numerous other BIM companies out there, and has a really powerful integration in ArchiCAD. Another one here. If we are a high-end custom single-family residential firm using AutoCAD, 60% in Revit, 40% on projects, what are some of the main advantages moving to ArchiCAD? Good question. I have a number, actually, interestingly enough, in terms of the custom residential market, ArchiCAD actually is a leader in that. If you go to the CRAN conference, a majority of those people who attend that conference are ArchiCAD users. And one of the big advantages to using ArchiCAD over Revit in terms of the residential market is the fact that ArchiCAD is a program that is more geared, or I should say, has the ability to create detail design elements really easily within the workflow. It has the ability to create and design custom residential components. It's just a really nice program to use in the custom residential. I mean, interestingly enough is that, we have a lot of custom residential clients, and a high majority of those custom residential clients start with ArchiCAD right at the beginning of the project. They don't wait till further in the project to do it. They're not using SketchUp. Again, you're not rebuilding the model, and you're using it all in one workflow. If you set up a custom template, in fact, one of the things that's also a powerful part to that is that as you're working and creating that model, even in schematic design, it's already starting to update every layout, every part of your documentation set, and so it really gives you a jump start to that. What is the learning curve for ArchiCAD if you have not worked in BIM before? The learning curve is pretty quick. So as on average, we tended to do a day of training with people, and then they also do some online on-demand training. And usually within a couple weeks, people are able to get up and running pretty well. And then, over a couple of months, they start getting extremely well with ArchiCAD. And one of the key things I've always told people in terms of a learning curve for ArchiCAD is if you can create a template before you begin to implement that into your firm, that template is based upon your workflow. So let's say, for example, you're coming from AutoCAD, as the question was just asked before. If you have that AutoCAD template and you have that workflow, and you're able to then duplicate that kind of integration that you had previously, or I should say intellectual process that you had before into ArchiCAD, it makes that transition even easier. We create favorites, we create methods, we create a reflection of your current office process for projects. And by doing that, when you get into ArchiCAD and you start to learn it, it makes it very easy to transition from whatever program you're currently in to ArchiCAD. What about interface with engineers who are using Revit? So as I mentioned before, ArchiCAD does have a direct RVT plugin, and as a result, we can either work as I was showing you before with a direct link, being they're working in ArchiCAD, you're working in ArchiCAD, or with that direct RVT plugin, you're able to actually take that particular or I should say, they just send you their Revit structural file. You then link that in as a hot link, so it's a reference, very similar to that, where they might do it on the Revit side. And then you're able to coordinate on your side to see the structural file. On your side, you can simply save out an ArchiCAD file to RVT, send that to them, and then they reference that in as well. So it works very well in terms of a reference back and forth between structural engineers, very similar to the way that they may have worked in the past with AutoCAD files being referenced in, and a way they currently work quite oftentimes with Revit files from architects that they're working with. I'm thinking of starting a new firm now, so would have no templates to transfer. Not a problem. ArchiCAD has a template that's embedded as part of when you start up ArchiCAD, it has a really good template to start with. So even if you don't have a template to start with, that's not a problem. Quite often people will actually start with a basic out-of-the-box ArchiCAD template. In fact, even when we customize ArchiCAD for firms, and that's usually what we'll do, we will sit down, we'll use the ArchiCAD out-of-the-box template. We'll customize that to the way that firms want to work. And then we'll simply embed into that basic out-of-the-box template ways that are more specific to your firm process. In fact, I had a client recently start up. It was a very simple template conversion process. All we did was we take the out-of-the-box ArchiCAD template, we adjusted that slightly to their template, their graphics, a few favorites they wanted. So nothing too deep, but enough to give them a jump start so they felt like they had something that was reflective of their own process. So it's really easy to either start it up by yourself, or even if you need help, we're happy to work with you to help you make that happen. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any more come through, Tom.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any more either at the moment. I'll give it one more minute just to see if we've got any more. In the meantime, while I'm waiting just to see if the other questions come in. Again, if you have questions that that were not answered today, certainly let us know. We'll be happy to work with you on that. And if there's any other types of, and also ArchiCAD does have a 30-day trial version that you can download. So just go to grapsoft.com and then you can just click try ArchiCAD, there's a button at the top, and we'll allow you to get ArchiCAD started. And you can try that over the next 30 days while you're thinking about this. Oh, another question here. Can my consultants use Revit while I use ArchiCAD? Absolutely. That's what I was talking about before. So if you're using ArchiCAD and you don't, your consultants are using Revit, not a problem. You simply use the ArchiCAD add-on. That is a free plugin that's produced by Graphisoft for RVT, RFA compatibility. And then you can save out that Revit file from ArchiCAD, which can then be referenced into your structural model, and vice versa. They can save out or just send you their Revit file, which you can then link into your ArchiCAD model. So absolutely not a problem. We can definitely do that. Another question here. Does the ArchiCAD license work on both PC and Mac, or is one license per operating system? It works on both PC and Mac, yes. It's one of the big advantages to ArchiCAD. It's a dual operating system software. Also, you're able to, with one license, let's say you purchase it and you have a Mac at home, PC at the office, or vice versa, you can actually install it on both computers. You would have one license, but you can move that license from one computer to the other. ArchiCAD comes with an option of a hardware key, which is basically a looks like a USB key that you plug into your computer. That's your license. You just pull it out, put it in another computer. Or it has a soft license, which basically just means that your license exists inside your computer, right? Software key. But you can also push that software key to the cloud and then go to another computer, pull it down from that licensing cloud, and then be able to use it on that computer as well. Another question, how do multiple people work on parts of a large project at the same time? So that's using our Teamwork integration. Teamwork is powered by the BIM cloud. So you install BIM cloud on a server, or you use Graphisoft's BIM cloud as a service. In either case, once you do that, you simply then share the project to the BIM cloud. Once it's shared, then anybody can join that new project, and then they can work either in your office or remotely. We have clients, for example, the project I showed in the beginning, which is one of the largest projects done in ArchiCAD. In fact, I think it's one of the 4th or 5th largest towers now in the world. It was done as a teamwork project, and they had a lot of people working on that project. And so it is actually quite easy to both share and join a project, and you can have a lot of individuals working in tandem on a teamwork project. And with some of the new tools to be able to manage changes and to be able to manage issues within a project and coordination of a project, it's going to make it even faster, I think, and better in terms of change management. Any other questions? I think we're getting close to the hour here, so it looks like we're just about out of time. I'll give it another second. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, feel free to contact us or the AIA. If you go to the AIA website, you'll see our contact information there. You'll be able to contact either myself or Frank in Southern California, and we'll be happy to supply you with any additional information that we can help you with.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us, and I will reach out to everyone who's attended shortly.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.